This is a video of Daniel Schueftan talking about Palestinians. I am the other Barak coming to you live and direct from here in the Holy Land in where? Israel. Let's take a look at the video and talk about it after.
I remember you were like, okay, like between Israel and the Palestinians. You were okay with like a two-state solution if there ever was one. That wouldn't that mean like Israel would still be a democracy, but Palestine would be a dictatorship because you say like Arabs can't do democracy?
First of all, I have never used the term two-state solution because anybody who uses
Two
the
states.
word solution in the Middle East doesn't realize that the only thing in life that has a solution is a crossword puzzle. Okay? I don't use the term
pretty good.
solution.
It's pretty
Where do
good.
you come up with all those phrases?
With what?
With all those funny phrases.
You see, while you are in real life, I live in the world of thinking and analyzing and so on. So you probably have achievements in other things, and with me, it all happens up here.
But I mean,
Okay.
the Palestinians at one point will have either their own state or be with the Israelis.
I don't think they want to have their state. And if they would have wanted, they could have had it in 2008. They could have had it 5 times before that. But the last time, 2008, what Ehud Olmert offered them was the most generous thing that you can possibly imagine from the Israeli side, and they rejected
We
it.
talked about it that last
Yes,
time.
okay. I don't think, if we spoke about it, I don't remember what we spoke about, but if we spoke about it, you know that I advocate unilateralism. I advocated for decades now, for almost 50 years. I want to get out of the overwhelming majority of the West Bank. I was very instrumental, I'm told more instrumental than others, in persuading Sharon to get out of Gaza unilaterally. I would get out of the overwhelming majority of the West Bank. I would partition Jerusalem according to the demographic composition that we have today. And because I am sure there will not be an Israeli-Palestinian agreement, it's impossible. And therefore, since I don't want to control them, I want to get out unilaterally. But if they get a state, it will be like the other Arab states.
Like a dictatorship.
Corrupt, dictatorial, with emphasis on arms and armies and security forces.
You realize this is one of the reasons why there still isn't a solution for the Palestinian cause, because they have pursued the same model, just like he's saying, of more of a destructive society for its neighbors, but also for its own people. And this is one of the reasons why people like myself always say that the pro-Palestinian movement and the anti-Israel camp need to just take a step backwards for a moment and really look at what the state of Israel and the IDF has done to prevent this from also becoming a society that seeks to just destroy and will only destroy its other neighbors, such as its other Muslim brothers and sisters. And then on top of that, if there was any sort of a quote unquote solution, Israel would be closer to being gone. And then it would be the United States of America. And so Israel has been a pinnacle. It's been an incredibly important piece in the puzzle of preventing this from getting worse than it already has been, but nobody sees it like that.
The difference between a European state and states that we have in the Middle East today is that in Europe you have a state and the state has a police. In the Middle East there is a police and the police has a state. Okay? And this is what you have with the Palestinians today, and this is what you will have. First of all, we have a Palestinian state already in Gaza, and it's one of the most repulsive places on earth that you can possibly think of. And I don't think that the state, if we will have one, in the West Bank will be much better. Perhaps it will be somewhat less radical, but I think within a short period of time, Hamas will take over, or something like Hamas will take over in the West Bank as well. And they don't want a state because as long as they're not a state, they can get billions of dollars, and they are in the center of world politics. And the moment they get a state, there will be a little crummy, poor, backwards, corrupt Arab state, and nobody will be interested in them. The only reason people even know that Palestinians exist is that you can blame the Jews. If you wouldn't blame the Jews, nobody would even know that Palestinians exist. Most people in the world don't know anything about any state in the Middle East, but they know about the Palestinians because you can blame the Jews. So I don't think that we are...
I mean, Israel occupies the West Bank. It still occupies Gaza. So,
First of all, Israel doesn't occupy Gaza, and
I mean, they control the border, they control the air, they control the port.
They control
who gets in.
First of all, every country should control its border. First of all, okay?
Yes.
Nobody has a right to come into Israel unless I want him to come in.
Sure.
This is one thing. Sure. Second, the only reason Israel controls the sea and the air is that the Gazans want only to kill Jews. They don't want their children to have a better life. They want to kill Jews. Okay? This is what they want. This is what they get up in the morning.
Everybody in Gaza?
I am not a social worker. I don't know if every German in the Second World War wanted to kill Jews or to fight Russia. And I don't care. I'm not interested in what each and every person wants. For this, you have social workers. If you want to seriously discuss, therefore, in a way that is not very popular in Europe, if you want seriously to discuss a political entity, you should ask yourself, what is the dynamic of what is happening there? Why is it that only radicals take over in most Arab states? Okay? Why is it that in Egypt, when you throw down Mubarak, the only choice is the Muslim Brothers or a military dictatorship, and the only real choice, not La La Land choice, okay, the only real choice is between military dictatorship and something that is even worse than military dictatorship. This is the choice in Egypt, okay? And again, you can have the La La Land perception. What about the nice people? I know hundreds of nice people in Egypt myself. I enjoyed meeting the leaders of the revolution in Egypt in 2011. And I told them, guys, I love you. You're the best thing that can happen to Egypt, but you're not Egypt. You're not Egypt. You can bring 100,000 people to Tahrir Square, but there are 90 million out there who are not you. And therefore, in spite of the enormous respect I have for these people, they are not Egypt. So you must look not at nice people that you know and what would have happened if they could lead their society. In very much the same way as we agreed, one of the few things we agreed about, that a change of regime must come from the inside. What does it mean to come from the inside? People who want what you and I want, a more pluralistic society, an open society, and so on, will take over. This will be regime change, right? So the question is, can they take over? And the question is, are there nice people? I'm sure there are nice people everywhere. And there are nasty people everywhere. The only question is, who takes over? There are barbarians in every country. I can show it in my country. I'm sure you can show it in your country. The question is, have they taken over? And there are nice people in every country. And the question is, do they take over or do they not take over?
I'm dreaming that Palestinians and Israelis live in the same state. We get a...
This will be a catastrophe. This is the worst of all possibilities.
You promised that you wouldn't get provoked.
No, I promised to be provoked. This is the worst option. This will be a civil war.
Everything will be Israel.
Civil war. I'm against it.
There wouldn't be a civil war if everybody had equal rights?
That's not true. This is an example of somebody that does not listen to the people who have masked this situation as a humanitarian cause. It's simply not true. It's very easily debunked. And the reason it's very easily debunked is because you have to only open the charter of Hamas as an example of one of the enemy states or enemy groups next to Israel to understand what their sole purpose is and their drive and their mission. Number two, on top of that, if they really wanted a two-state solution and really wanted everybody to have equal rights and call it a fucking day, why are their leadership on record after the 7th of October promising to do more of them? Because the 7th of October was not a representation in a class act practicing your pursuit closer towards a two-state solution, my friend. The 7th of October was a class act presenting and performing everything possible to destroy any process that was on its way to becoming a two-state solution. It's not debatable. It's not debatable whatsoever. Not even after the right that Israel has to defend itself after an attack like that.
Can we say bullshit?
Yes.
Okay, bullshit. Look, people are not aggressive because they were wronged. You know what? If somebody comes, a rapist comes to rape your daughter, it is only because no other girl was willing to have a healthy sex with him. So let us just give you his other daughter and see if it works.
The rapists are the Palestinians
No,
in your example.
you assume that there is no evil in people. There are no pedophiles and no rapists and no murderers and no... Because
Put them in jail.
the point is that if you have an ethos of a people, you see, this is why I cannot take Europeans seriously. Because this Friede, Freude, Eierkuchen approach of let's all be nice people and live together and ride into the sunset and live happily ever after. This is good for, I don't know, this is good for people who live in La La Land.
It's also very good for people that have never been to the region and have somehow come up with a really, really deep opinion about this. And they also are good for people who impose their own set of morals and how their code of conduct of their own society operates without applying it to the specifications and geopolitics of a place so complex like the Middle East. This is why I have a big issue with Americans and Canadians at college campuses talking about what Israel or Palestine should do. The word should is a really fucking dangerous word, because if you're coming from a place of what they should do, then you should be able to back it up with something practical, something smarter, something better. And when you ask these people who claim that they should have done X, Y, and Z, and they're asked what is X, Y, and Z, they say, oh, I'm not a military expert, I don't know. What should Israel have done? Oh, I don't know, don't ask me that, but they shouldn't have. Really? If you're going to make a claim that they should have, you know what was a good idea and what Hamas should have done? They should have decided not to have done the 7th of October. That's the should that should be happening in this conversation.
Are not part of the real world. And this approach doesn't help us to deal with real problems. Okay? I'm not saying Palestinians are rapists. I am saying you are assuming that all people have the same motivation about everything. I am trying to bring you an example from the non-political world. I'm not saying that this is applicable to the Palestinians. What I'm saying is you assume that there is no such thing as a rapist or a mass murderer or somebody like Pol Pot or like Stalin. Bring Pol Pot to your home and treat him nicely and give him Kaffee mit Kuchen und Schlagsahne and assume that that Pol Pot, once he will see the Schlagsahne, will say, well, you know, why should I have butchered so many Cambodians? You don't understand, or you don't want to understand, because your problem is not analytical or intellectual. The problem is not intelligence. The problem is that you think in terms that are unrealistic. You cannot build a society on these assumptions, because according to your assumptions, why should you have a police force? All you have to do is to treat people equally. And when you treat people equally, there will be no crime.
If there's rape If there's a murder, it doesn't matter if it's a Jew or a Palestinian.
not.
They get it. They get in jail.
Of course
So
not. No, but the issue is not just individual. You are not aware that people in a group behave differently than individual people.
you give me the example last time, like with one 15-year-old boy coming.
Exactly.
So yeah, I remember.
Exactly. And that is tremendously important to understand. A collective behaves differently. Look, let me give you a specific example. When you had barbarian Palestinians, no other way to describe it, coming to buses in Tel Aviv and exploding in the middle of a bus or in the middle of a restaurant, barbarians, subhuman barbarians, okay? My problem was not with them. My problem was that the Palestinian society, all of it, as a collective, considered them to be heroes and considered them to be their representatives. Now, is it possible that many of them privately said to themselves, this is terrible, this is barbarian? Yes. My assumption is it happened.
Yes.
But could they speak in public? No. And the moment they can't speak in public, what they say deep in their heart is only interesting for their cardiologist. It is not interesting to me, because I'm trying to ask myself, how does a collective behave? And a collective is not the simple sum of its individuals. It is much more complicated than that. Now, I know personally hundreds of Arabs who I have tremendous respect for. And a few years ago, I don't know if it was before we met or after, I said to one of them, every time I see you, it warms my heart. And his answer was, don't misunderstand the situation. People like me are not marginal in Arab society. We are negligible. Am I sure that if I know hundreds of them on a personal level, there are millions of them in the Arab world? Yes, I'm sure there are millions. What is their effect in Syria? What is their effect in Yemen? What is their effect in... And don't tell me one day in the future, because telling me one day in 20 years, they already told me 30 years ago, okay? And I've seen it. Okay. Because they told me, you will see, when the regime changes, when we will have a major a movement in the Arab world to remove the existing regimes, then you will see who will take the lead. And I saw who took the lead. And I'm sorry that these people that I respect so much in Egypt and in other places didn't take the lead, but I was not surprised. I'm sorry, but not surprised. Because, again, I see how
It's a really, really important conversation. I've actually never really covered a lot of his work before, so this was eye-opening for me. And I like the idea of him being very unapologetic about his views, and he never once said all Palestinians inside of the Gaza Strip are bad people. What he did do in the beginning, I'm going to clarify this right now because I already know where some of you are going to go in the comment section, is he said that Gaza is one of the most repulsive places on earth. He did not say that Palestinians in the Gaza Strip are the most repulsive people on earth. If you look at the Gaza Strip simply for what it is as a piece of land and what has existed and been built over the past 2 decades in that piece of land, and why am I saying the past 2 decades? Because you have to attribute what is there now today to those who have been operating and ruling it, Hamas. You have a society that prevents people there from having the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of political views, being anti-government if they wanted to, freedom of protest, having the freedom for education, freedom for anything that you could think of in your own home society that you have freedom to, without someone of a higher power, whether it's a government official or somebody in the military, coming to you and your family and threatening you based on what freedoms you chose to exercise. And this is a dictatorship. This is a ruthless, incredibly dangerous operation that, if you're not unapologetic about how you approach the seriousness with trying to get more people's attention as to why this place needs to change, and if you're not unapologetic about that, we are not addressing the core issue here. And the core issue is exactly what exists here for the Palestinians inside of the Gaza Strip. And what future or lack thereof exists at the moment with the continued leadership of the Hamas and what has already existed there? And without addressing it like this, I don't think that we're actually moving, threading the needle of like, guys, it's now or it's fucking never. You know what I mean? You guys want to go out and protest about the Middle East, Israel, Palestine, change for the Palestinians, freedom, future, education, economy, jobs, being able to do it. What needs to change then? What needs to change? You're trying to convince me that if Israel was gone tomorrow, that suddenly all of the Palestinians inside of the Gaza Strip would then have all of the fucking freedoms that you wish they had? Are you delusional? These people, I wouldn't even, this is going to be crazy to fucking say right now, but I wouldn't be surprised that if Israel was gone tomorrow, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, these fucking groups would first start by slaughtering all of their own people and then fight each other and kill each other until whoever lasted last would then take the land that we know is now today proper Israel. And you want to know why I think that? Because currently Hamas needs its Palestinian people inside of the Gaza Strip to exist, to then be killed in warfare, to make it look like Israel's committing a genocide. But then if Israel was gone, they would not be able to convince the people in the West that Hezbollah or the Palestinian Authority or the Houthis or the IRGC is committing a genocide against its own people, because then the people in the West would be like, hold on a second, this doesn't fucking make sense. I thought Israel was committing the genocide. Yeah, no wonder it doesn't make sense, because you've been wrong the whole fucking time. Think about that one. Thank you so much for all your support. See you next time. If you want to continue the conversation, you can support my work for free. Discord does not cost a thing. It is the best way to connect with me and others who are seeking the truth. The link is in the description. But if you want to take it one step further, my Patreon gives you access to the Israel you don't see, uncovering the untold stories of what mainstream media does not show you. The link is in the description, and it helps me to continue this work. Or if you're just looking to help this thing go, PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee is a really easy way to support me. This channel, this work does not happen without all of you. Thank you. I love you. I'll see you next time.